Hi, I'm Janice MacGregor, and I'm Miss Regal World 2020 to 2021. First of all, I'd like to thank Natasha, Charlotte, and Crowns and Sashes for allowing me to be a part of this Purple Day project. So, as you may have noticed, I'm wearing purple, and that's because purple is the international color for epilepsy awareness. March 26th of every year is Purple Day. It's a day that we encourage people to wear purple to show their support for those of us who live with epilepsy. So Natasha had some amazing questions for me, and I will answer those now. The first question was, at what age was I diagnosed, and how did I find out? I got a formal diagnosis when I was 18. I was in my first year of university and I had a seizure in the cafeteria. So I did have two previous experiences when I was younger, age 11 and age 17, but because I have no family history of epilepsy or seizures, and because there were no witnesses, the doctors said that it was most likely just that I fainted. But the cafeteria was really busy this time, at this hour when I had that seizure. There were many witnesses, and I had a seizure. I didn't faint. So that's when I got a formal diagnosis. Question 2. Has epilepsy stopped me from doing anything? Well, the day that I had my first confirmed seizure, that changed my life plan. I had been planning on being a pilot. I wanted to be a commercial airline pilot. And I found out that wouldn't be possible anymore. So it changed my career plan. Other than that, no, I'm a little bit too stubborn to let anything stop me from doing something that I really want to do. Question 3, have I ever been treated differently because of epilepsy? Yes. Yes. A few years ago, I had a national level pageant title. And I was told, we're not going to send you to the internationals because you're just going to go falling down everywhere. That was that pageant system's idea of what epilepsy is. So have I been treated differently? Yes. Also, in my current career, I act and I model, and I don't hide it. I'm not going to hide that I have epilepsy. I have nothing to be ashamed of, so I don't hide it, but it's something that we have to be careful with and with who knows about it, because people are always going to try to find reasons to not hire you when you have a disability, and I'm not under the illusion that the modeling or talent industry is going to be as accepting of me as they would someone else. And one example of this would be with the late actor Cameron Boyce, who passed away at a very young age. It wasn't until after he died, it was an epilepsy-related death, that his parents came forward and said that he had epilepsy. And the reason that he kept it hidden is because he knew that casting directors and directors would be prejudiced against him because of that. And there's always going to be excuses like, oh, it's an insurance thing and whatever, but in the end, it's not that. It's just discrimination. So, yes, I have been treated differently because of epilepsy, and I'm not under the illusion that I'm not going to be treated differently in the future. But if people want to act in an ignorant or bigoted kind of way, then it's on me to prove them wrong, because ultimately I can't change the way that they think. It's just my actions can hopefully change the way that they think. So for the pageant that wouldn't let me compete at internationals because I would just go falling down everywhere, shortly after that, I competed in a different pageant. I was International Miss Canada 2018. I competed in the International Miss pageant and I placed in the top 10 at an international pageant. And as I said, I'm currently Miss Regal World, which is an international title, which I won. So I would hope that the directors of that Canadian pageant would rethink their idea of what people with epilepsy are and are not capable of. Because we are capable of a whole lot more than people give us credit for. What's the hardest thing about living with epilepsy? The loss of independence. Yeah, not having a driver's license. Definitely. Do I have any advice to newly diagnosed people, especially those struggling to come to terms with it? I try not to give advice just because we all have different situations, whether it's because we have different types of epilepsy or we have different types of seizures, age of onset for the time of diagnosis, gender even. Those are all things that affect how we experience epilepsy. So I try not to give advice, but one thing that I would recommend for all females who have epilepsy is definitely, especially if you're on prescription medications, you need to have a talk with your doctor if you're planning on starting a family, because prescription medications can affect fetal development in very severe ways. And if you're thinking of going off of medications while you're pregnant, there are two risks with that. One, some people, such as myself, stop breathing when we have tonic-clonic seizures. And that oxygen deprivation is not good for me, and it would not be good for a fetus. The second issue is if you fall when you have a seizure, that fall could injure or kill a fetus. So it's something I would recommend all females with epilepsy discuss with their doctors, especially if they're planning on starting a family. To all people, regardless of age, gender, what age you were when you were diagnosed, I think the one thing that we all have to remember is that epilepsy does not define us. Ultimately, it's who we are on the inside and how we live our lives and the choices that we make that define us. Epilepsy is not Janice, and Janice is not epilepsy. my diagnosis doesn't encompass all of who I am or what I am. And the way that I look at it, and the way that I encourage other people with epilepsy to look at it, is we're not just a blank surface with epilepsy being written on that surface. We're a multifaceted diamond. We're the most brilliant cut diamond. And one of those facets happens to be epilepsy. That's just one part of who we are. It's not all of who we are. So we need to look at ourselves beyond just the diagnosis. And when we find people who look at us as just our diagnosis, we need to challenge them on that. We need to call them out on their ignorance. Sometimes it's ignorance, sometimes it's deliberate. We need to call them out when they make stupid comments. We need to educate people who have good intentions but may be misinformed. And I think the one thing that I would like to see, this isn't advice or anything that I'm aiming to any individual, but something that I would like to see collectively as a society, meaning people with epilepsy and people without epilepsy, is we need to get rid of the humor around it. Those jokes about seizures, they're not funny. I'm not going to repeat them because people who have epilepsy, we've heard them before. They're really not funny. And when they're in TV, movies, the media, not funny. Like, be better. Writers, you need to be better. Comedians, you need to be better. Yeah, I think that as a society, those are things that people with epilepsy and people who don't have epilepsy can strive towards. Just eliminating the ignorance and eliminating the idea that a life-threatening condition is somehow a laughing matter. So I guess those are my takes on epilepsy. And once again, I want to thank you, Natasha, for asking me to be a part of this. Thank you to Charlotte and Crowns and Sashes for having me. I really appreciate this, and I appreciate this opportunity to share my experience. And I hope that it's helped someone. If there is anyone who's struggling with this and needs to talk, just please feel free to message me.